For our first video, we're going to talk about how to make Steve the stickman, and we're going to make him wave his arm. So first thing from the scratch screen is go ahead and press create. It takes a moment and then it comes up, and that's fine. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of the sprite, the cat. There's a couple ways you can do this, but I'll do it this way. This next part's important. There's down here for choose a sprite and there's choose a backdrop. We are not doing a backdrop. We are only choosing a sprite. And to get to a blank complete screen, I'm just going to go paint. It'll take me to a paint palette. And here I'm going to use some of my tools. First of all, I'm going to use is the circle tool. Now, I do want an outline, and I will say right now 4 is going to be too thin. I'm going to go all the way up to 8. But I don't want to fill right now. And universally, the crosshatch means no fill. So I'm going to go no fill. And I'm going to hold the shift key so I get a good circle. I'm not going to make him huge because I don't want him to take the entire stage. I just want him to be a part of it. So I've got a circle. Now I'm going to make some lines for his body. So the first line, I still want that outline of 9. It's still stuck there. I'm going to stick it right here and pull down for a little body. Not extreme, not crazy. And let go. This next part, I'm going to make his arms and legs, but I'm going to make them detached to start with. And the reason I'm going to do that is if I attach them, they will link together, which makes it hard to do some moving and changing, which I don't want to. So I'm going to make his arm first. There's his arm. And I'll make his leg. There's his leg. Now, because I'm learning tools, I'm going to go to the selection tool. This is important. If you're ever doing this stuff and you go out here and it does something weird, it probably means you don't have the selection tool hint. So I'm going to go to this arm here, and I'm going to copy that arm. There's a copy up here. If you don't remember Control-C, that's great because it's copy. And I'm going to paste it. Now, it pastes it in the same spot, but I want it for his right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the flip horizontal button right up here. And then I'm just going to move it over to the right-hand side. Whoops. Sorry. I have to flip it again. Then I'm just going to move it over to the right-hand side. Just like that. I'm going to do the very same process with his leg. I'm going to click it, copy it, paste it, and then flip it horizontal, and then move it. Now, he's got his arms and his legs. He looks like he exploded Steve, but now we're going to actually move those together. So I'm going to put his arms on him. I'm going to meet them naturally. Remember, he's a stickman, so he doesn't really care too much if they're not quite perfect. Whoops. Do the same thing with his legs. And now I have Steve the stickman. Now, I've gone through all this work. One of my personal pet peeves is naming things. So Sprite 1 is a terrible name. How about Steve? We'll go with Steve. You can name your stickman whatever you want. Now, there's some things about Steve that you'll notice. Steve is a stickman. He is in the center of the screen. Now, I can move him on this over here. I can move Steve around, but you'll notice it doesn't impact his location as a sprite. His location as a sprite is independent of that. So the moving around stuff, leave that for up here. But the building, leave it down here and just leave it in the middle. Don't try and build it left or right. So Steve's got a name. He's right in the middle. I like that. He's a pretty good size. So now I'm going to go over here to costumes. Now, this is one of those places where I won't change the name. One, because I like costumes just to run through. If you get some crazy stuff, you may have crazy costumes. So I want Steve to wave his arm. So what I'm going to do is come over here to costume 1. I'm going to right-click and press duplicate. I'm going to do this so I have 4 times. So what I'm going to have Steve do is wave his arm up and then down. To do that, I need 4 in a row. My second one, I'm going to go ahead and put Steve's arm up. And to do that, I'm going to select this little anchor-looking thing down here, and I'm just going to put Steve's arms up and then reattach it. So Steve comes up to his face, and Steve is happy. So his arm is up. Now I'm going to go to the bottom one, to costume number 4, and I'm going to put Steve's arm down. Now, I don't want Steve to be a crazy person waving it. That's enough for me. So now I've created 4 costumes for Steve. He now has the potential to do it on. I'm gonna now I'm got enough here really programming wise. I really should save it, but honestly, I should give it a name. I should have done that very early on. I'm gonna call this one Steve's Day because Steve's gonna have a bad day before we're done. And I'm going to press the save now. Anytime you see save now up here, go ahead and click it. It is well worth your while. Nothing is worse than going through this and having problems. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually do some coding. So up here in the left hand corner where it says code, I'm going to click that and I'm going to do some coding for Steve. I want Steve to wave his hand and I want it to do it as soon as the green flag is pressed. So the very first thing I'm going to do is go to events. It really is where you begin every bit of programming because you got to have that. So when the green flag is clicked, I want Steve to wave his hands. To do something like that, I have to put on a repeat block, and that's in control. So I have a bunch of choices. Right now, I'm going to select forever because I just want him to wave his hand forever because it sounds like a fun job for me. So he's going to wave his hand forever. And I'm going to put his thing in there. Now, before I do that, before I go to motion, actually it's looks, before I go there, I'm going to put a wait block in here. A wait block will allow me to control how fast Steve waves his arm. Without it, the computer does that, and we really don't want it to. So I'm going to go up here to looks, and I'm going to go to switch. I'm literally going to go next costume. So my program's going to start in a forever loop. It's going to wait 1 second. Then it's going to go from costume 1 to costume 2, to costume 3, to costume 4, and then back to costume 1. So I'll get a cyclic look. And I'll go ahead and hit save now. And I'm going to run Steve. There Steve goes. He's waving. He's kind of slow. If I want to pick Steve's pace up once, I'm going to press stop. It does help the next part. If he's going, a lot of times it's hard to do stuff, especially moving around. I'm going to go up here and change the second count, and I'm going to go 0.2. So every 0.2 of a second, Steve is going to wave. So let's see it. So you can see Steve's a little more active now, and I like him being a little more active. All right, so that was making Steve. And we are done with this one. We'll carry on next. We'll be making a meteor, thus making Steve's day worse.